welcome tilbage, Christina Rosendahl. Nice to have you back after the movie, so to speak. It's great that you have the time also to answer a few questions regarding this movie. I felt very, very strongly that this sound side of the film is quite different from what I usually experience. One of my favorite scenes is this swimming pool scene, because normally if you get to see films that play in that time, then you get a picture at once showing like Goebbels in the Reichstag having his speech. Everybody knows that, and you choose to do it on the sound side. Tell us a bit about that. Who got the idea to that? Was that from you, or who was involved in that?
Yes, so what I do when I develop films is that I will include my sound designer in the very early stages of creating the story. So even before we have written the script, we will start working with the sound. And I think I came to him for this film, and we had a discussion about, you know, doing another World War II movie. I mean, there's millions and thousands of, it's a whole genre of itself. And there's a lot of cliches about this. So one cliche could be to include archive material and cut to sort of documentary footage. Another cliche would be to see a lot of men in uniforms and guns and tanks and stuff. And I had this idea that we should try to do something completely different. And so I had a discussion with my sound designer, and we made the decision to only do the storytelling about the war through the sound. So no images, no scenes, no shooting of scenes, but the war will be a storytelling element only in the sound. And it also has to do with that the story takes place in Washington. And so for Kaufman and his family, the experience of war is through these like really bad phone lines or some radio broadcast. And so there's a distance in that. And we try to sort of go into this, you know, the sound experience of that. And I think also, for me at least, film language is, I think that the sound is almost 60% of the experience. And I think that the image is less. And we all know this, you know, from our own life, that, you know, you hear a song from when you were a teenager or from the first time you were in love, and you're just like, in 1 second, you're there. And I think that the sound just hits us in a more instinctive and in intimate way, more than images. So,
and it also gives a very nice contrast there, because we have this sweet life at the swimming pool, and in Europe there's a war going on. So that even makes it stronger, I felt, for me. Talking about Kaufmann's family, I thought it was quite ironic that this sort of hero afterwards is from a German family originally. He was born in Germany, actually. I didn't even know that either. He had 2 daughters. Did you have contact to the family at all? Are there still descendants of him today who saw the film? Maybe did you have any reaction from that?
Yeah, the 2 daughters. I mean, they're very old, but they actually died 3 years ago, just the year before we shot the film. But I have, and I still am in contact with I think 6 granddaughters and grandsons.
Okay.
And one of them were alive when they took their, like in the end in 1963 when they died. And he can, I mean, it's an emotional story for this family, and I was very nervous and excited to share this, like the film with them. And we have had a long conversation about how did it affect their family, because when people in your own family die like this, it's complicated, and it's also tough on children and grandchildren. It sort of survives down through the generations. So I think we use the film to have a new conversation about how to understand these people. And I think I did a lot of work researching the death scene. I took that extremely serious, and I have read everything I could find in the in the National Archive in Copenhagen. They have like a huge file. I have read investigation papers from the police in 1963. I've talked to people who will investigate murders from the police, from like doctors who sort of analyze dead bodies, and also psychiatrists looking into the minds of people who kill. And it's a very special scene, this, because Charlotte is using this weapon as a knife. It's not very female way to kill.
No.
And also I think that her suicide it's so unnecessary, brutal. And that sort of, I use that brutality. I talked to some psychiatrists and stuff. She needs to have been a person who was extremely sort of dedicated, like a go-getter. So she makes a decision and she does it, right? So she's a strong character. She's not a weak character.
But that, of course, explains why you give her so much space in your movie as well, because I was wondering how much is this story on the based really on the truth, and what is fiction, sort of, because of course you're trying to make this whole story living again in a way, and you do it on a very personal, on a very private level, which is quite interesting as well. You choose to really try to show the family, the man at home also, but not only the politician. So, but then you answered that, by the way. So this is actually really the way it happened, that he died.
So I think that it is. Yeah, I think it's very close to the research I did. I think, you know, with all storytelling about historical figures, it's always an interpretation. So I'm an artist, so I interpret the material in my personal way, and I think also because me as a director, I grew up in a family with my father was an alcoholic, and he was also very violent, and I think that sort of made me use this scene in the film to sort of explore the human aspects of something very brutal. So what are the sensibilities of these people, because they're not maniacs or psychopaths. These are real living people with like sorrows and happiness like all of us. So I use this to also to ask some questions that I'm having in my own life. But I also think that I mean, we never knew how real people in the past, you know, what words did they speak, what thoughts did they, and I think that historians don't know. So and I have to do an interpretation underneath and between sources, whereas the historians will interpret the sources. So that's the difference between the historian and the artist, right? And so it's an interpretation, and it's my personal responsibility, this story. But I think that, I mean, a lot of truth is there. I mean, Charlotte was connected to President Roosevelt through her father, who knew him, and I can read in the letters from the two sisters writing a lot of letters to each other that they're going to tea every once in a while with the Roosevelts, and they're hanging out with them in the cottage, like the summer cottage, and going on trips and stuff. So they have had a relationship, and so that's truthful enough. I don't know if I don't know if like the scene where Charlotte is talking to Roosevelt in the garden, I don't think that scene actually happened, where she's sort of making the offer about Greenland, but I think it's kind of close to the to what happened.
I like this very ambiguous character of Henrik Kauffmann. I was, until the end of the film, I had to decide on, do I like him or do I not like him, because he's both parts. I mean, and the English title, The Good Traitor, is showing a lot of this ambiguity, really, which is in the character. How is the reception of Henrik Kauffmann today? Could you say anything about that? How is he still the hero, really? Or do people rather say, well, it's due to him that we have this Thule air base on Greenland, and that we still are tied up in this deal with the Americans? Is there, or did they at all know him today, or did you have to bring him sort of back into the memory of the Danish people?
I think not a lot of people know about it, and certainly not a lot of like normal audience knew anything about him. I think in the government and the whole foreign service, I think that he was a dark horse. I think because he broke the rule of following orders. I think you're not supposed to do that in the foreign Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I think that in that way he was being put to shame and forgotten. And now I'm pulling him out of the shadows and putting him up and letting the audience discuss, you know, the relationship between hero and traitor. And I think that was the most truthful way for me to tell him as a character, because I think that every human being we are all living our lives like a pendulum between, you know, the traitor and the hero, and we're trying to find our way in that. And so I think that's the human way of telling his story also.
I mean, he wasn't
the Danish audience didn't know him.
Yeah, I think in a way he was very lucky. I mean, maybe if Japan never had entered the war, maybe it had all turned out differently, because then suddenly he was needed. I mean, that's very nice in the story. It's extremely interesting, also historically seen. I just felt like, I mean, he is really violating Danish law, and he is really a traitor in the sense at that time that he, you know, says, I'm not following anything from Denmark any longer, not following my king any longer. Isn't that quite unique in history? I've never heard of any ambassador telling, okay, I'm making my own job now here, I don't follow my country any longer. And he even manages to get a lot of other embassies behind him, following him in this scene. So that's true as well then, really.
That is true, and I have never heard about that either. I think it's incredible. I mean, it's also to do with, so what I think that he has a gambling side. I don't think he's not an idealist. He's not like driven towards destroying the Nazis, or I mean, I think he thinks that they should be sort of put to sleep. But I don't think he's not a sort of a freedom like peace writer or anything. I think he believes the world to be a place where we secure peace in international collaboration. I think that's his viewpoint, and he's a businessman. So like Trump, he believes that the less war, the more we can sell stuff across borders and earn money on each other, right, and develop societies this way. So. But I think that he has this crazy gambling side where he's sort of, because he's intelligent, so he analyzes, but then at one point he just says, I'm just going to do this, and then he just go for it. And that's the interesting thing also with Ulrich Thomsen as playing this character. I think Ulrich, he has this kind of enigmatic, kind of a little bit introvert character. You're sort of driven to him. He's attractive in a like as a man and as an intelligence, but you don't really know him. There's something right behind his eyes where he can sort of surprise you at any second. And I think that's very much Henrik Kauffmann, this like this gambler.
Yes, he's somehow very reduced, and he plays that very nice in the movie as well. I felt that as well. And there's a lot under the surface going on, which makes it so exciting. And then you have this very nice contrast with Denise Gough, his wife, you know, really pushing him. I was wondering if she maybe is more the gambler, because she really encourages him to do this gambling. I mean, he's putting everything everything he's got on the table, really. He might as well gone the other way. No, but a very strong movie, fantastic. Tell us very shortly, what is your next project? What are you working on at the moment?
Right now I'm working on a much more personal story, but I think that it's still the same subject matter, and it's taking place in a family, and it has like one character in the middle who's sort of not following orders but going by instinct. So I think maybe that's a theme for me. So
okay. Well, then I can only say good luck with that, Christina. Thank you for being here with us today and sharing a bit of what was going on behind the scenes. Great movie. I really can only cross my fingers. Hope it's going to come into the cinemas. it's a story which is, I think, interesting for everybody, not only a Danish story, but as this Tule Erbe still affects us today. And it's a piece of history that has been forgotten for quite a long time. And thank you for bringing that up and back again. So
yeah, and thank you for having me at the festival. I'm so honored. I'm so sad I can't be there, but I'm
yes.
sure that we will meet again.
Christina, there's only one thing to do: come back with your next project. So we have to do something about it. And yes, looking forward to that. And say hello to the entire cast when you meet them. We love the movie. We enjoy it very much. And good luck with whatever you are heading for next. Thanks a lot, Christina.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.